In this video, we will introduce IMO data collection system and identify major issues for preparing the SEEMP Part II. IMO continues to make efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the maritime sector. IMO DCS was introduced as one of the greenhouse gas reduction measures in line with EEDI and the existing SEEMP. To identify information on ship fuel oil consumption and greenhouse gas emissions, IMO adopted the mandatory data collection system for fuel oil consumption. Also, IMO DCS is the first phase of three-step approach of greenhouse gas reduction strategy. IMO will revise the strategy in 2023 to include short, mid, and long-term further measures. Amendments to MAPOR Annex 6 that makes the data collection system on ship fuel oil consumption mandatory were adopted at 70th sessions of MEPC in 2016, and it was entered into force from the 1st of March 2018. According to MAPOR Annex 6 Regulation 22A, each ship of 5,000 gross tonnage and above engaged in international voyage shall collect and report corresponding data including fuel oil consumption. Related documents are 2016 Guidelines for the Development of a Ship Energy Efficiency Management Plan, 2017 Guidelines for Administration Verification of Ship Fuel Oil Consumption Data, and 2017 Guidelines for the Development and Management of the IMO Ship Fuel Oil Consumption Database. The guideline you should pay attention to prepare the SEEMP Part II is the first one. Also, please refer to MEPC 1 Circular Number 876 to check sample format for the confirmation of compliance. IMO DCS applies to ships of 5,000 gross tonnage and above, for which the Ship Energy Efficiency Management Plan is required to be retained on board. It is not applied to ships not propelled by mechanical means and platforms including FPSOs, FSUs, and drilling rigs regardless of their propulsion. According to requirements of IMO DCS, inspecting of ships for which the delivery is placed on or after the 1st of March 2018, all ships shall prepare SEEMP Part II to include a description of the methodology that will be used to collect the data. It shall be reviewed and approved by administration or RO. After the approval of the SEEMP Part II, administration or RO will issue COC to company. It shall be done before 31st December 2018. From 2019, each ship shall collect the data for each subsequent calendar year. Within 3 months after the end of each calendar year, which is on March 31st of every year, the ship shall aggregate the collected data and report to the administration or RO. When the collected data is verified, administration or RO will issue SOC to company. It shall be done no later than 5 months after the end of each calendar year. And administration shall transfer the collected data to IMO database via electronic communication by using a standardized format. Data monitoring and verification shall be done annually. COC and SOC shall be kept on board for at least the period of their validity. Furthermore, SOC related to fuel oil consumption reporting is included in MAPOR Annex 6 Regulation 10, Port State Control on Operational Requirements. Based on 2016 Guidelines for the Development of a Ship Energy Efficiency Management Plan, KR published SEEMP Part II sample on KR homepage. If you download the sample file, please check whether the version number is 04. SEEMP Part II is consisted of 8 main chapters, including ship's particular, fuel oil consumer and fuel type, emission factor, data quality treatment, direct CO2 emission measurement, method of measuring fuel oil consumption, distance traveled, and hours on the way. In the chapter of ship's particular, You shall input ship's name and type, IMO number, company name, gross tonnage, net tonnage, deadweight tonnage, EEDI, and ice class. To verify that the information is correct, we will request you to submit documentary evidence. Details will be shown on the next slide. In the chapter of consumer and fuel type, you shall enter the information of main engine, auxiliary engine, boiler, gas turbine, and inert gas generators. This information may contain type, model, quantity, power, and fuel oil types used in the consumer. You can include other consumer if you want. To verify that the information is correct, we will request you to submit documentary evidence. Details will be shown on the next slide. In the chapter of fuel oil consumption, you can choose 3 methods for each consumer. Main issues on method of measuring fuel oil consumption will be introduced later on this presentation. To improve efficiency of SEEMP Part II management, please delete the methods you did not choose. In the chapter of emission factor, fuel type which do not fall into one of the categories as described in sample, the fuel oil supplier should provide a correction factor for the respective product supported by documentary evidence and submit to KR. The distance is distance traveled while the ship is underway under its own propulsion. Distance traveled over ground in nautical miles should be recorded in the logbook in accordance with SOLAS regulation. The hours underway should be an aggregated duration while the ship is underway under its own propulsion. For distance traveled and hours underway, the contents of sample are based on the guidelines. So please specify actual procedure used to collect distance and hours on board. For data quality, the procedure for treating data gaps should be mentioned. Moreover, the existing safety management system, for example, if internal procedure for bunkering is referred in SEEMP Part II, you should submit them. In data quality of measurement of fuel oil consumption, the methods selected in Chapter 2.4, Method to measure fuel oil consumption, should be mentioned. Direct CO2 emission measurement is not mandatory item of Regulation 22A. If it is not applicable, you can just delete it. This slide shows the documents required for cross-checking the information of ship particulars. Please submit the documents marked in red with SEEMP Part II. If the ship is registered in KR, you don't need to submit IEE and ICC certificate. This slide shows the documents required for cross-checking the information of fuel consumer and fuel oil type used. Please submit the documents marked in red with SEEMP Part II. If the ship is registered in KR, you don't need to submit IAPP certificate. Method A determines the annual total amount of fuel oil used based on BDN. To determine the difference between the amount of remaining tank oil before and after the period, the tank reading should be carried out at the beginning and at the end of the period. In case of voyage that extends across the data reporting period, the tank reading should occur by tank monitoring at the ports of departure and arrival of the voyage. And statistical methods such as rolling average using voyage days can be applied to a calculation of fuel oil consumption for each days. Regarding density conversion of fuel consumption into metric tons, please specify calculating procedure. If you are using sample version number 4 of the SEEMP Part II, you can pass this issue. For checking remaining fuel oil, please specify the method of fuel oil tank reading. In details, please specify information of equipment such as maintenance interval. This method determines the annual total amount of fuel oil consumption by using flow meters. In case of flow meters malfunction, manual tank readings or other alternative methods should be conducted instead. Annual fuel oil consumption may be the sum of daily fuel oil consumption data of all relevant fuel oil consuming measured by flow meters. To apply this method, flow meters and their link to relevant fuel oil consumers should be described in SEEMP Part II. If the consumer is not monitored by flow meter, alternative method should be added. If the flow meter is installed after the daily tank, the amount of the sludge generated does not need to be considered. Lastly, calibration and maintenance procedure should be recorded. In SEEMP Part II sample, you can confirm this in the chapter of data quality. On this method, we should check the validation whether fuel consumption measurement is possible or not. Application of this method is difficult if the flow meter is not installed on the return line of consumer. For checking details, please include procedure to calculate daily fuel oil consumption record and PIC. As mentioned before, calibration and maintenance should be included in SEEMP Part II. If there is internal procedure about calibration and maintenance, relevant content of the internal procedure should be incorporated in SEEMP Part II and submitted to us. If there is not the internal procedure, you should specify the details in SEEMP Part II. For calibration of flow meters, we recommend 3 methods, but you can use your own method if you already have one. First is outsourcing the calibration to the specialized company at regular interval on board or onshore. Second is outsourcing the calibration to the specialist of flow meter supplier. When you decide to outsource the calibration, it should be done at a regular interval and the test results should be submitted as the evidence. Third is verifying accuracy by a competent person on board at a regular interval. In this case, the records and the evidence for checking competency of the person in charge should be submitted. In case of choosing method B, issue number 4 is mandatory for Bahama flagged ship. Backup method must be described in case of flow meter malfunction. Accuracy of flow meters shall be verified by a competent person annually. Method C is using bunker fuel oil tank monitoring on board. To determine the annual fuel oil consumption, the amount of daily fuel oil consumption data measured by tank reading will be aggregated. Tank readings are carried out by appropriate methods such as automated system, soundings, and deep tape. The tank readings will normally occur daily when the ship is at sea and each time the ship is bunkering or debunkering. Also, the summary of monitoring data containing records of measured fuel oil consumptions should be available on board. Regarding density conversion of fuel oil consumption into metric tons, please specify calculating procedure. If you are using sample version number 4 of the SEEMP Part II, you can pass this issue. For checking residual quantity in tanks, in other words, bunkers remaining on board, tank monitoring should be done every day. And for more detail, please add procedure about consumption calculation, relevant record, and person in charge. In case of indirect measurement, please specify equipment name, location, type and model, emission source, and potential fuel types used. For direct measurement, please specify equipment name, applied tank or emission source, information, and maintenance interval of equipment. For the chapter of data quality, there are 2 frequently asked questions. First is approval of the existing shipboard safety management system. If all the SEEMP Part II or only the data quality chapter is included in the existing safety management system, or if the data quality control measure is not specified in the SEEMP Part II, safety management system is subject to the approval. But if SEEMP Part II just refers the data quality managing process of safety management system, that safety management system is not subject to the approval. For determining range of difference in case of method A and error in case of method B and C, please refer to the internal procedure of your company. For the data quality difference management, it is recommended to set the difference standard below 10%. We recommend to make SEEMP Part I and II respectively. Since SEEMP Part I is the plan only for improving energy efficiency, it is not the object of the IMO DCS approval. Also, when the approval is done, we will stamp an endorsement on the approved plan, but we cannot do that on the SEEMP Part I. Please download the SEEMP Part II from KR's homepage for your reference. In the following case, you should get the SEEMP Part II approval and COC issuance again. When the ship has been revised appropriately to reflect a major conversion in those cases where the major conversion affects data collection methodology and/or reporting processes. And in case of change of company stated in SEEMP Part II, if company is the manager or charterer, you should get the reapproval of the SEEMP Part II. If company is the owner, you should get the reapproval only when the methods specified in the plan is no more available. For example, when the IT system of the previous company used for data collection is on the plan, you should get the approval again. When there was a change on the administration, you should also get the approval again. Lastly, for Bahama and Palau flagship, in case of change of the class, SEEMP Part II should be verified by the new RO and COC should be reissued to the ship with the new IAPP certification. This is the end of our presentation and thank you for your watching. For further assistance on the IMO DCS service, please feel free to contact our team at any time. Thank you.